Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show, seen Wednesdays on the Sports Collectors Daily Facebook page and the Great American Collectibles Facebook page. You can also listen to us on iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Spotify. The Great American Collectibles Show is brought to you by the National Sports Collectors Convention and Sports Collectors Daily. Tonight's headlines are brought to you by Sports Collectors Daily. For all of your hobby news, features, and more, go to sportscollectorsdaily.com. And now your hosts, Tom Zappala and Boston sports personality, John Mallory.
JM, how are you, bro?
What's up, pal?
What's going on?
How are you feeling?
Can I tell you
That's what I want to know.
I dodged a freaking bullet. By the way, a lot of people have asked, and I appreciate that. A lot of emails and stuff. I dodged a bullet. You saw me a month and a half ago.
Yes.
I walked into the surgeon's office. I crawled into the surgeon's office, and I said to him, I have never looked forward to having back surgery in my life. I never thought.
Right.
He says, showed me the MRIs and all that. He says, yeah. He says, you're in tough shape. He says, but let's keep an eye on things, but we'll schedule the surgery. Scheduled the surgery. 2 weeks later, I woke up. I said, tell him, it's feeling better. It's feeling better. Every day got progressively better and better and better. Last Friday, we met with the surgeon. Boom. He says, we're canceling it. He explained why. I don't know if you guys know this, but when you have degenerative disc, what happens is they start shrinking, and that's how you get better. I didn't know that. Anyway, to make a long story short, I'm starting physical therapy. I dodged a bullet, I think.
I was supposed to be doing this show by myself.
Today, with Joe.
That's right.
That's right, Joe.
Which is the only bad thing that came from your recuperation.
That hurts me. Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show.
With Joe.
Tom Zapp, please. Tom Zapp.
I'm happy, by the way.
I do have to have the knee replacement.
Were you taking any kind of drugs?
Ibuprofen and Tito's.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you got to go with ibuprofen.
That was oral and also as a balm. You were kind of rubbing it on.
Correct. Well, actually, quite frankly, I was showering.
Good for you.
Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show. Tom Zapp, my good friend and partner, Johnny Mallory. You see these two mugs on camera. Top with the eyeglasses. You do look distinguished. You look like a professor.
Joe, you know what another word for distinguished is?
Old. Joe Orlando, Executive Vice President of Heritage Auctions, and our good friend Al Crisafulli, President, CEO, Head of Facilities.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Right? Of Love of the Game Auction. How are you, boys?
How are you?
Good. I have my Celtics right here.
Nice. I got my Celtics hat.
And
because
my bananas.
As we're taping this anyway, recording this, they are up 2-0 in the finals.
That's correct.
Yep.
And my Savannah banana hat.
They were at Fenway.
37,000 yesterday.
The spaceman, Bill Lee, was there.
Yep.
You know I used to do a TV show with Bill Lee?
Pissed
Did you know I did a TV show with Bill Lee?
I do.
You didn't know that?
No. Rico's pissed.
Why? They didn't invite him?
When we had them on, they forgot. They said, we definitely want to have you and Spaceman on. They never called.
So I know Rico plays golf and everything. Could he still get on the diamond and throw a ball around, or is he not able to do that?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Can Satchel Paige?
Satchel Paige is dead.
Well,
I wouldn't ask about Satchel.
So what does that tell you?
I mean, at the end of his career, he wasn't throwing the ball around that great anyway, Rico. So, I mean.
Rico, that came from John.
I love you, buddy. I love you.
All right, listen, we got a lot. Today we're going to be all over the place because these two guys, what we love about both Joe and Al is that sometimes they can be a little unfiltered, and that's what we like on this show. Unfiltered.
Unfiltered and unfettered.
Like bad, gross wine.
All right, listen, let's get this out of the way, Joe. And Al, obviously, you can chime in here. You guys have the most iconic piece of sports memorabilia coming up for auction. And tell us a little bit about it. This thing is already picked up ahead of steam. It's off the charts. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so we decided to go early and let people know that we had this coming for our late August auction. It seems like, a million miles away right now, but I'm sure it'll disappear in a blink of an eye. But we have the jersey that Babe Ruth was wearing in Game 3 of the 1932 World Series when the very famous and very contested called shot was hit in the fifth inning. So it's a remarkable jersey. It's been around for a while. So that jersey was last sold roughly 20 or so years ago. And at the time, that jersey was attributed to the called shot. But if you guys know, of course, photo matching wasn't really a thing back in those days. Well, since that jersey was purchased by the consigner, it was presented to third-party photo matching services, more images were discovered, and more than one party has definitively matched it to Game 3 of the series. So it went from being an incredible high-grade, top-quality Babe Ruth jersey from 1932 to that jersey. So it's pretty amazing. Obviously, as a collector and a fan myself, those are the things that get you excited about being a part of this. And it's going to be a heck of an auction beyond the jersey, but watching that jersey sell is going to be very, very exciting.
Joe, what is that? What's the starting bid going to be on that jersey?
Yeah.
I mean, have you zeroed in on that yet, or can you give us a ballpark?
Well, we generally, the way Heritage does it is that whatever the estimate is that you see when you see the auction, whatever the estimate is, we start the bidding at about 25% of the estimate. So we're still wrestling with that at the moment. But if the estimate remains at 30 million plus, then it would start at 7.5 million.
Al? Al's just shaking.
You want to go in on it with me?
Well, actually, you laugh because I have a game used Rico Petrocelli jersey that has hairs on it from Joe Pepitone's wig.
Well, when they fought,
right?
They always fought.
So
that's right. Joe and Al, you can certainly chime in on this. You've been around a long time. Last time I was on the show 2 weeks ago, we had Mike Provenzal on, and we know Prov is one of our favorite people in the business. He knows his stuff as well as anybody.
Going to be a great funeral director someday.
No question. He's going to voice over my wake and funeral as well. So, but Joe, I mean, you've been around a long time. Mike, and we all kind of threw around some superlatives when talking about this. I believe, I'm paraphrasing, not quoting here, he said it's probably the most amazing piece that Heritage has ever had, which is saying something. Are you in line with those thoughts, given your vast background in this field?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, look, there's always going to be personal opinion about what people think the coolest, item in the hobby is, and some people are, more card-centric, some people are more game-worn-centric. I think, forget about Heritage, I think it would be hard to beat this across the board, just for the total package of what it is, and to stop me and interrupt me from going on and on about this. But, I was thinking about Babe Ruth's career, and what's amazing about the jersey is that if you think about it, with all the things he did, all the accomplishments, all the statistics, everything in his career, really, if you were to pick one moment and one item that embodied or encapsulated Ruth, it would this jersey. This was like
that moment.
Presented everything about Ruth. The fact that he would step up in a big moment,
right.
Everything surrounding it,
his attitude, his braggadocio, the whole bit, right? Yeah,
it embodies him in such an ideal way that it's hard to imagine a better sort of representation of Ruth than this item. And really was kind of his last hurrah in a sense too. Like when I mean that, look, in 33, he was still a viable power hitter. He was productive. 34 certainly started to really decline. And then 35, we know what happened with the Boston Braves. But it was really like the last moment of his career where he was still the man. He was still the guy. And it was the last time that core group kind of founded on Ruth and Gehrig won a World Series together.
Go ahead, Joe, finish.
No, just that there's so much about that moment and that jersey. And again, of his career, that it's hard to imagine a better moment, again, that represents Ruth at his finest. Again, as you said, John, his personality, his ability on the field, just everything.
And he makes a great point, Zap and Al, and that is that the dyed-in-the-wool baseball fan knows Ruth's numbers, the 60 home runs, 714, whatever. But even the casual fan, probably, even a casual sports fan who also is a baseball fan, the called shot. Like, everybody knows that. You know what I mean? I think, and that's why I think what Joe is, that's a great point. It goes beyond statistics into the realm of mythology and into the realm of history.
Al, what are your thoughts as a competitor? I mean, you guys are friends, but you're friendly competitors. An item like this in the hobby, what does it mean to a guy like Al Crisafulli or possibly a guy like, I don't know, pick somebody, Mike Hefner, other auction houses? Is it good for the hobby? Is it exciting for the hobby?
I mean, if you distill baseball as a thing, right? Baseball is this enormous, beautiful book of all of these chapters, year after year after year. I mean, it's impossible not to be romantic about baseball. And if you were to distill that book down to a couple of sentences, right? A couple of really important moments that everybody knows who hasn't read that book, right? That called shot is maybe the best known thing. That's you know, point. I mean, that is a thing that little kids imitate, you know, almost 100 years later on ball fields in Little League.
It's been duplicated in movies. It's, you know what I mean? Like, remember Major League at the end when the Tom Berenger character.
You weren't here last week.
You know what I mean? It's,
You weren't here last week. Last week's the blast from the past. You know what we showed?
What?
We really built it up. The William Bendix scene. Oh, yeah. When he called the shot. It was hysterical.
Right. They found the one actor who was less athetic than Ruth himself.
Absolutely.
I
listen.
I mean, there's really not any, maybe me personally, I might say, you know, the day Jackie Robinson took the field might rival it as a thing, like a monumental thing that will be remembered forever. And Babe Ruth's called shot is
right there.
You know, so what does that do for the hobby? I mean, I think what it does for the hobby, I think what it does for the game of baseball, it just kind of reiterates to people this rich history that the game has and how important it is and how woven into the fabric of the country's history it is. I mean, I sound like a movie
Ken
right now.
Burns. You sound like Ken Burns.
But it actually is that.
I agree. Totally agree.
You know, and when it is that, it's the most beautiful thing. And now we're going to see the jersey he was wearing come to the auction block. That's amazing.
And Al, to draw a parallel with your reaction to this as Zap said, someone who's in the field, but obviously not with Heritage. You have your own thing, your own company. It's kind of like, I'm going to draw a broad parallel here to what's in the news. It's kind of like, to me, the Caitlin Clark thing a little bit with women's basketball. It's like when there's a light that bright on your business, everybody benefits, right? Like, it brings eyes to the hobby, and therefore more eyes could go to Love of the Game or all these other places, like she's doing with women's basketball now, which a lot of people don't understand. But
the Love of the Game could go away tomorrow, and I would still be crazy about this hobby. And so to see something like this happen it's only exciting. It's look, we were. Or I personally was involved in the excitement of photo matching a cool piece years ago with a Lou Gehrig bat, and I know that thrill that you get when you find a thing and you say, oh my God, look at this, that's amazing. Now do it with the most iconic. The people at Heritage have got to be having parties every day, right? I mean, it's the idea that they've got this jersey that emanates from one of the most important moments in sports.
It really is cool.
Well, Grady parties every day anyway.
Yeah, he wears it to bed.
It's great for the hobby, and it's great for the hobby regardless of whether or not Love of the Game auctions is I'm here to represent that, or whether I'm just here as a collector. It's great for the hobby.
Hey, I want to switch gears for a minute. in recent weeks, the last couple of weeks, MLB finally had decided to implement Negro League statistics along with the regular Major League statistics and incorporate them. I personally, I'm embracing it. I think it's great for the game of baseball. I wanted to get your thoughts on that because, again, using Josh Gibson as an example versus Ty Cobb, you know, he's at the top of the leaderboard now. But the question is there an asterisk next to his name just psychologically because of the talent that he played against? What are your thoughts on that? And not just him, but, you know, going right down the whole list of players. What are your thoughts on that? Joe, you first.
Sure. I think, first of all, I think it's largely good because I think for new generations and you know, Al so eloquently put it, there's this great thing about the richness of baseball history. We love to compare players from different generations, even though it's maybe unfair. We love doing it. The statistics matter in baseball more than it does in other sports. But I think it's largely good because it enables a new person to find these names, to gain appreciation for what they did and how great they were. And it was no fault of their own, obviously, that they didn't have the opportunity to play in Major League Baseball. I love that because by incorporating the names in there, it makes them easier to find. If you make them easier to find, it's easier for new people to, again, have appreciation and respect for what they did. As far as literally incorporating the statistics in there, I'm still kind of digesting that. There's part of me that is like, you know, as much as I love what happened and I love the greater appreciation of the names and because that's so important. Everyone deserves that from that period. I'm just not sure if literally blending the statistics was right, but I'm still sort of, again, digesting that.
And I agree with that. I mean, look at...
I agree completely with that.
Is there any footage on Josh Gibson actually catching that you guys are aware of?
The statistical part of it, and Al, I want your response to this too, but the statistical part of it bothers me. And actually, for the first time, someone feels bad for Ty Cobb. You know what I mean? Because I'm not really into the intermingling of the statistics. Listen, I love when any barriers are broken down in baseball. Like Al said, the Jackie Robinson moment might be number one of all time. I love the influx of the Latin players, the Far East players. I love that. But when you get to statistics, the fact is that through no fault of their own, and we could say that many, if not most, maybe if not all of the players in the Negro Leagues could have played in the majors, they didn't. They didn't. There was two separate leagues, so I'm not a big fan of the statistical intermingling. But Al, what are your thoughts on this?
So ultimately, I net out in favor of it.
Okay.
I think that you know, there are some obvious issues related to length of time. You know, is somebody's 370 batting average with 2,000 at-bats better than somebody else's 365 batting average with 10,000 at-bats?
Right.
You know, there's that argument, which I can kind of stomach a little bit. The rest of it to me is window dressing and you know, I am in favor of whatever we can do to sort of recognize and give credit where it's due. And some of these players are amazing legends that we don't know about because
that's a good point.
He's right. No, he's right.
You know, I also think one of the things that I've been fortunate enough to you know, to have encountered in the time I've run Love of the Game is to speak with people whose parents and grandparents played in the Negro Leagues.
Yeah.
Right. Who were not able to, you know, they weren't recognized. They couldn't stay in the same hotel. They couldn't eat in the same restaurant.
Oh yeah,
you know, and they were considered not a real baseball. You know, they had to go in the summertime to Cuba, you know, just to make a living and play baseball. And now these people, their relatives are getting recognition that their ancestors are getting recognition that's been long deserved for decades. That now, okay, it's being, I hate to use the word legitimized, but that's what's happening here. I think it's great.
Hey, and I have a question, Jamie or Joe. Either one of the three. When the jump was made from the ABA to the NBA, Julius Erving, Spencer Haywood, were their numbers incorporated into their lifetime stats? Does anybody know that? I'm just curious. So when Julius averaged 29 a game in the ABA for the Virginia Squires, did those numbers get incorporated into his NBA stats?
That's a very excellent question, and I don't know the answer to that.
I want to look into that.
Yeah,
you could you could ask the same question about the Federal League and Players League.
I don't know. I'll have to look. I think if you look at Julius Erving, I'll go online during the break and check it out. But I mean, I think they recognize those, but I don't know if you say, what was Julius Erving's NBA point total if they're including the ABA?
That's my point.
I'm not sure about that.
That's my point.
It's a great question too.
All right, listen, we're going to take a quick break.
And by the way, a little different because they weren't banned.
No, I agree.
The NBA,
I agree.
But I'm not being an apologist, but it's a great question because it was a different league and a different level of competition.
That's
no
correct.
question about
That's
it.
correct.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break. Al's in the house. Joe's in the house. When we come back, a Gax blast from the past.
All right.
Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Since 1996, Brian Drent and the staff at Denver's Mile High Card Company have led the charge in the collectibles hobby. Mile High is a full-service dealer specializing in buying and selling cards and offers a competitive consignment program for all collectors. Whether it be their computerized want list service, appraisals, or auction services, Mile High has it all. If you've been searching for a company with a selection of high-grade vintage 1888 to 1970 baseball cards and memorabilia that shares your passion, aim high, mile high. Go to milehighcardco.com or call 303-840-2784 for more information.
Let's go! Batter up!
Hi, everyone. This is Rico Petrocelli. JustCollect.com, a leader in the vintage sports card industry, is giving free appraisals on your vintage cards. They'll evaluate your collection for free and let you know the value of it at no cost and no obligation. If you're ready to sell, JustCollect.com will offer you industry-leading prices to buy your card collection. To begin your free baseball card appraisal, visit JustCollect.com or call them at 732-828-2261. That's JustCollect.com for your free vintage card appraisals and top buy prices for your cards. Check out JustCollect.com today.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
This is Brian Drent, president of Mile High Card Company. Is your sports card and memorabilia collection properly insured? For easily replaced personal property, homeowners insurance is all most people need. But for prized possessions that you may have spent a lifetime collecting, it doesn't go nearly far enough. Collectables Insurance Services has been insuring for over 50 years. They offer a full range of protection and a $0 deductible at an affordable rate with no appraisals required. I know because they insure my collection. If you have a minute, go to collectinsure.com and learn more about insuring your personal card or memorabilia collection.
How would you like to own the bat that was used by your favorite player when he hit that towering home run or game-winning base hit? Now look no further than JT Sports, specializing in the sale and authentication of professional game-used bats. As the official authenticators of professional model game-used bats for PSA DNA, JT Sports will guarantee the authenticity of any bat purchased from them. JT Sports also buys and sells game-worn uniforms, gloves, and baseball equipment. The unique quality of the collectible is what JT Sports is all about. Give them a call at 609-487-8003 or check them out at GameUseBats.com.
Okay, we are back. Before we get into our GACs.
Yeah, so I went to basketballreference.com, and I looked up Julius Erving. So it has all his stats listed in the same area, but it does say ABA for those first few years. So they mark it that it
but
was
it's
ABA.
Incorporated into
but it's
his
incorporated into his overall stats. Interestingly, I looked up Joe Namath on Football Reference, and it just has all his stats. It does not say AFL for his first 4 or 5 years. It does say on the side he was AFL Rookie of the Year and All-Pro. So they do incorporate it into the and they leave it up to the reader to look at it and say, okay, that was in the ABA, and
Yeah.
I wonder if when they did that, there was the same kind of controversy.
Well, you know what I'm just thinking.
Right.
I just
throwing that out there.
Right.
Well, that's a good point. I just made a comment to JM. I said, look at Julius Erving's stats on those 4 ABA seasons, 31 a game, 29 a game.
Yeah, and he was still doing 24, but it was still about 4 or 5 points less per game.
Then you go down the list, the rest of his NBA career, and his average goes down 5 points a game.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for our GACS Blast from the Past, brought to you by our good friend Paul Borges and PB Collectibles, your neighborhood card shop. Go to pbcollectibles.com to find that special card or piece of memorabilia. This week, an iconic piece. I hate using that word iconic, but I use it a lot. It's an iconic piece. A lot of people have seen it. This was actually voted, I don't know if it still is, the #1 moment in baseball history that was like on camera,
Right.
This is the famous shot heard round the world with Bobby Thompson hitting the home run to win the pennant for the Giants over the Brooklyn Dodgers.
1951.
You guys are going to be able to hear it. You'll see it when we send you the link. Take a view, guys.
The shot heard round the world.
The last half of the night. The Giants catch
Watch the third base coach. He's hysterical.
in favor of Brooklyn, but the Giants have the tying run at second base. And Thompson is the hit back. Bobby Thompson up there swinging. Back to throw. There's a left side. It's going to be out of the lead. The Giants are the Giants.
Watch the third base coach. It's awesome.
The Giants.
Look, he doesn't know what to do. Look at him. He's running around in circles. Look at him. He's still. Great piece of.
That was crazy.
Look at the fan.
That was the Dodgers had a big lead that year, right? In the National League, and the Giants came back. Yeah. And you told me they signed together, right?
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
One at bat and you become a legend.
Right.
One at bat and you become a legend. Joe, you can attest to this. How many years did Bobby Thompson and Ralph Branca sign together after that? Right?
I remember growing up, it seemed like they were, and Bob Feller was there too for some reason. I remember seeing Bob Feller at the show, sitting there with his own table. Like it was
but you know something? You talk about the called shot. A piece like this is what it's all about, man. This is just great moments in baseball history. You know, Al, your niche is higher. You're kind of like in an interesting place with your company. Your niche is higher than the real mom and pop auction houses, but obviously you're not the same size as the Heritages or the Lelands or the Memory Lanes. Are you in the place that you want to be right now? Are you happy with it, or do you have visions of growing a little more? What's in the future for Love of the Game?
So thank you. That's I'm probably taking that compliment a little bit differently than you intended to be. Okay. Because when Love of the Game started 11, maybe 12 years ago, it was it's another auction house. Let's see how long this one will be around. And if you were to look at the landscape of auction houses today and which are the ones that are that are important auction houses, right? I mean, important is a bad word. They're all important auction houses to the hobby. But which are the ones that you would consider for your high-end memorabilia? Really, the only one on that list that's different today than 10 years ago is Love of the Game. And the difference, I think, between Love of the Game and a lot of these other, companies is that Love of the Game wasn't here when I got here, and it wasn't.
So you didn't buy it.
It wasn't started with somebody else's money.
Right.
So, we started slow. We have grown slowly and organically and profitably through good ethical business practices and a healthy respect for the history of the sports that we that we work with, and by staying within sort of what we know and what we're good at, and so I'm proud of where we are, but I'm not done, and I think we have a ways to go, as the landscape of the hobby changes. I just read during the break that there was that one of the major hobby brand names is going away. There's a new deal with Fanatics and Sotheby's, and there's, obviously this new deal with Golden and eBay. And as all of these things change and it's very fluid, Love of the Game is just growing slowly and organically. And I hope growing smartly, so I'm not done, but we're going to continue to do the best we can to grow the company smart and to grow it in such a way that we're able to continue to focus on our consigners and on our bidders and providing a great experience for both.
I think both of your auctions, Joe and Al, are a lot of fun to look at online. And I want to ask you a question. I'm going to stay with you, Al, first, and then, Joe, I want you to answer this as well. I always wonder about how you go about when you're working with a client or a consigner, how you go about picking the best exposure for items and the best visibility for items in terms of where they're placed, on your websites. So let's start with you, Al.
You mean as a lot number?
As a lot number, like where you put things so that people can get the most out of the exposure. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
both you guys will start with Al. Yeah,
we're actually really careful about that and how things are presented and in what context. I think part of our job is to get as much money as possible for our consigners, right? And yet we're doing this in an area that is increasingly commoditized, where a thing is worth X, and when it sells tomorrow, it's worth X, and we're willing to give it a little bit of a bump for better eye appeal, or a little bit less of a bump for lesser eye appeal. But most collectors think, okay, once it gets here, it's hit its value, and our job is to kind of present things in such a way that some of that goes away, and collectors are using their imagination a little bit more and envisioning this thing in their collection. And so we try and present things in such a way that you can see them in context. You can see them, along with similar items, but in a way that really brings each individual piece out. We like to also make sure that each individual item is getting some level of exposure away from the rest of the auction. And so it's a challenge, but I think we're pretty good at it. And we've got numerous catalog sections and numerous parts of the auction where it's very deliberate where things are and how they're presented.
Joe?
Yeah, I think there's no one size fits all answer to it, but I think a big part of it is the relationship you develop with the consignor, and presenting all the options. So ultimately, they're going to lean on us for our expertise of how to present it, how to list it, how to market it, all that stuff. But for example, I mean, because we have so many different platforms, we have everything from our weekly sales all the way up to our platinum sales, and then a number of things in between those two things. So,
Right.
Things like, do you want to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond? Would you rather be a part of a larger event and take advantage of the extra eyeballs that might be associated with a larger event? Does timing matter to you? For some people, they're not in any rush. They'd rather wait. For others, it's like, look, I really want to sell this stuff in the next, 2 months or 3 months. What do you have available? So there's a process, but I think a lot of it comes down to just kind of that rapport and relationship you develop with people, and making them feel like they're part of that decision. That, to Al's point, we're not just grabbing their consignments and mindlessly throwing them into this auction or that auction. I want to walk them through all the options and explain, here are the pros and cons of this, here are the pros and cons of that, and make them feel comfortable with that ultimate decision.
I'll tell you, there hasn't been, going out there. Obviously, you go up against different competitors, different companies. When you're talking to consigners and they're considering X or Y company to go with, not to toot a competitor's horn too much, but there's not a whole lot that is a more valuable brand than Platinum Night. That is just like there are consigners who just have said to me, yeah, I was thinking about it, but then I had the opportunity to put it in Platinum Night, and so it's in Platinum Night, and there's no comeback for that.
Yeah, but I mean, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but an object that is put in Platinum Night is a special object. No, I mean, no doubt about it. Correct. I mean, you're not going to put a 1956 PSA 10 Ike the Lock in a platinum auction. I mean, no. It's really the cream of the crop, is it not? Actually, not true. But first of all, I want to let Al know the check is in the mail. He's been so appreciate the kind words. Well, actually, no. What's interesting about platinum is that it really, if you look at the platinum night that's going to come up, and I know we're 3 months away, I think what people will find is there are great items in there that are $5,000, and there are great items in there that are into 8 figures and everything in between. I think what we try to do, I mean, as best we can, is if the item is at the lower range of value, we still want it to be something interesting. If it doesn't always have to be Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan. Right. You mentioned a set registry type thing, a low pop common, an ultra high grade. You better believe we want that in platinum. Really? Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. We want something for everybody in there, but I think again, we all have a different opinion of it, maybe even inside of Heritage. But the way I look at it is, as long as it's interesting, it's if we have the 2 platinum nights a year, one in February, one in August. It's okay if the item is a Kirby Puckett bat, but it has to be an outstanding Kirby Puckett bat. That's that's the way I look at it. But we also have, we also have a Babe Ruth bat and a Mickey Mantle bat and that sort of thing. So I think it's more about quality, not as much about value. Joe, tell us about, again, another find, the Southside Bobby find. Talk about that a little bit. Yeah, this is great. This is, Al and I feel the same way about this. We would be doing this regardless if we, had a career in this industry. It's just, these are the things that, again, get me excited to come to work every day. So, gentleman reached out with this collection a few months back. And what is so interesting about it is that this was a father-son duo in the late 50s, primarily the late 50s to the late 60s, who chased autographs. The thing that makes this collection so interesting to me, and I think to a lot of veteran collectors, it will be interesting to them, is that when this young man, who is now the consignor of the items, when this young man was doing this, once he stopped this
endeavor with his father, he stopped collecting altogether.
Really?
So all of the autographs are period. And that, I think, is something that while there is a current premium for period autographs versus autographs signed later, I don't think that the period autograph has been sort of completely appreciated or leveraged. I mean, a lot of the signed cards that you see, and you see a lot of Mickey Mantle signed cards, for example, Roger Maris signed cards, that sort of thing. So many of those cards were signed much later. You know, they were 1960s cards that were presented to Mickey Mantle at a show in the 1980s, and he signed it well after his career was over.
Right.
What's so neat about this collection, again, from a collecting geek standpoint, is that when this kid stopped, that collection was kept by his mother and father, and the mother presented it to him when his father passed away in the year 2000. Wow. He didn't realize it was preserved all those years, and there it was. It's over 3,000 signed, items. Most of them are trading cards, so there's mostly baseball, but there's some football in there, but they're all period. So when you see the Yaz rookie, while I can't sit here and say, was that signed, in 1960? I can't say that, but it was signed around 1960. You can tell by the style of the autographs, McCovey, Bob Gibson, all these great players. So I think that's going to be the most interesting kind of facet of these items when they come to market. We're going to start sprinkling in a few in August Platinum, and then you'll see the bulk of them most likely in September, but they're all period signed. Plenty of Bob Gibson signed rookie cards out there with autographs from 1998 or 2000. Yeah. Not too many that are period signed Bob Gibson rookie cards. So that's the kind of thing I think, again, as a collector myself, that's what got me excited about the consignment. And I think, telling that story to people and having them see the material once it comes out, I think will be a lot of fun.
All right, quick question. We got about 2 minutes left before this break. Your thoughts on the following. Acuna cards, up or down? Joe. Excuse me.
Up or down?
I mean, are Acuna cards going to continue to increase in value? Overall, a guy like that, what's going to happen with a card like that?
So I think it's just like any other young, great star of the game. I mean, he had such almost video game-like season a year ago. Now and then with the injury and the expectations going forward, I think with a lot of these guys, again, we've talked about this on the show before. You have to be careful because guys can get hurt, things can happen off the field, performance can vary. But he's such a talented young guy. I think that there's a lot more of the story to sort of unfold.
It has to unfold.
Last year was so amazing that
Al, what about Bill Walton? Does Bill Walton memorabilia go up now that he's passed on? Does it stay the same? How does it typically work?
I don't know if the hobby, there are exceptions when there's a tragedy or something like that. But I think the hobby understands that we're all here temporarily. And I don't know that other than a short-term bump, somebody passing away,
right.
It makes their material more valuable. I do think that one thing that happens is there's this period where we reflect on the achievements of a person after they pass away, and I think that's good and that's healthy and
they're in the news again too. So people start.
I like to see it. I'm not. I had a romance with basketball when the New Jersey Nets were in the finals, right? We had season tickets, and we would go, and I loved to watch the game. I still love basketball and how beautiful a game it is. Yeah. But I wasn't a fan of basketball in the 70s and the 80s the way I was a baseball fan. And so my exposure to Bill Walton was as a color commentator, and he was great. And I loved to listen to him talk about the game and weave in everything under the sun, all kinds of craziness. And he was just fun to listen to. And I liked
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We have one more segment to go. Al Crisafulli from Love of the Game Auctions, Joe Orlando from Heritage Auctions, John Mallory from Methuen Fire Department.
Parts unknown.
Hang in there, we'll be right back.
Pristine Auction is a family-owned and operated online auction specializing in autographed memorabilia, sports cards, coins, art, and collectibles. Since their founding in 2010, they've grown to 2 facilities in Phoenix, Arizona, totaling over 60,000 square feet. Jared Cavalier and an incredible staff of over 150 team members serve a very large customer base and enjoy every minute of it. By working with leading authentication companies, Pristine ensures all items are 100% authentic. In addition, third-party authenticators regularly travel to Pristine Auction to provide authentication services on site. Pristine Auction strives to operate its business in a way that's honoring to God, their families, and their customers. With a strong focus on speed, quality, and premier customer service, their mission is to be the leading online auction for every level of collector and fan. Pristine also works for Hope Sports and Identity Hoops International, traveling to Mexico to build houses for the less fortunate. Pristine Auction offers several online auction formats with thousands of auctions ending each day. For more information, go to pristineauction.com. That's Pristine Auction, the best in the business.
If you are a discerning collector interested in owning the most important pieces in the hobby, look no further than Leland's Auctions. The original sports auction and appraisal house, Leland's was established in 1985 by legendary Pioneer founder Joshua Leland Evans. And today, President Mike Hefner carries on their tradition. From the Tom Brady card and memorabilia collection to the famed Boston Garden Auction to high-end card auctions from every major sport, Leland's has always maintained the highest standards. Go to Lelands.com and get your bid in. That's Leland's, the hobby's leading sports auction house for 4 decades.
It's often been said that championships are won on the practice field, and world records come only to those willing to work harder than everybody else. Heritage Auctions is the world's largest collectibles auctioneer because we believe that becoming the best is only an invitation to the challenge of remaining the best. This requires the skills of the hobby's top experts, capable of identifying and maximizing value for our consigners. It requires the most visited website in the industry, courting a global audience of collectors over 1.5 million strong. It requires a dedicated press department that expands our global reach far beyond the entrenched hobby marketplace. It's hard work, but a simple premise. Present the finest collectibles to the largest population of potential buyers, and world records will come. We invite all listeners to put the unmatched power of Heritage Auctions to work for you. Auction evaluations are always free, and our commission-based fee structure ensures that our interests are always aligned. The highest possible price for your collectibles. There will always be new world records to chase, so let's chase them together. Visit our website at ha.com and request your no-obligation review today.
With record-breaking sales from everything from the white border T206 Honus Wagner for $3.12 million to some great items that support the Jackie Robinson Foundation, Golden Auctions has set the highest standards for the finest in sports cards, autographs, and game-used memorabilia. We're always accepting consignments of high-end premium sports treasures or entire collections. Please register for our next auction and bid now at goldenauctions.com. That's golden with an I. We at Golden Auctions are committed to providing unsurpassed customer service for the discriminating collector. That's exactly why we're the leader in the industry. Visit goldenauctions.com or call 856-767-8550. Remember, Golden Auctions. We don't just break records, we shatter them.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
Hey, I'm Mike Petroselli. If your company is looking for the best in marketing and promotional items, you'll hit a home run with Petroselli Marketing. With over 8,000 suppliers and 650,000 imprint-ready items, we can get your company the visibility it needs to get your maximum exposure. Whether it be office promotions, wearables, automotive, sports items, and everything in between, Petroselli Marketing can do it all. Our design staff will even work with you from concept to delivery and customize your products. At Petroselli Marketing Group, we will get your brand in front of your audience. Contact us at info@petrosellimkt.com or call us at 603-880-3202. That's Petroselli Marketing, where no dream is impossible.
And so, Zap, Joe, Al, Chrissy.
Oh, would you just read?
Anyone else who will listen. By the way, if Chrissy ever married Al, she'd be Crisafulli. Just throwing that out there. How does your company or organization do promotions? Imprinted products keeps your brand in front of your customers more than any other form of advertising. I just thought of it now. For the best on-time service and new ideas for your next project, give Petroselli Marketing Group a call at 800-264-4294 or email info@petrosellimkt.com. And should we talk about our friends at CSA Shows?
Yeah, you might as well.
Okay, CSA Shows is proud to present the Chantilly Show, being held on June 21 to the 23rd, held at Dulles Expo Center, Chantilly, Virginia, just minutes from the Dulles International Airport, celebrating 28 years. The same location, there will be over 450 dealer tables exhibiting on over 125,000 square feet of space with both vintage sports cards and memorabilia, as well as modern-day sports treasures. You won't have to look very far for that special card, bat, ball, or autograph. Major auction houses and third-party grading companies will be on site to assist you with your collecting and authentication needs. Some of your favorite superstars will be on hand, including Trevor Lawrence, Jamar Chase, Emmitt Smith, Mean Joe Green, Michael Irvin, Ray Lewis, and many more. Over 30 guests in total. For more information, go to www.csashows.com. That's the Chantilly Show, where you can find all of your sports collectible treasures.
All right, let's talk about the National for a few minutes. As you guys know, Rico and I are going to be broadcasting from the Burka stage on Friday of the show from 1 to 3. We've got some great guests coming on. Al's going to be joining us for a few minutes. Joe's coming on as a guest host. Who else do we have? We have Mike Hefner. We have Joe Tomasulo. We have Brian Drent.
The big names. You got big names coming.
We got some heavyweights.
You got some heavyweights coming. Yep.
And so that's going to be fun. But let's talk about the National. Joe, any other little teasers you can throw out besides the called shot jersey?
We sent out a little flyer with a teaser flyer, basically, just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, this is what I would say. Again, as Al said earlier about the love of this hobby that we both have. If you come to the show, or if you're thinking, I should say, of coming to the show, please stop by the Heritage Display. Let me just give you just a sampling. In addition to the called shot jersey, how about a photo match 1952 Mickey Mantle jersey to the clinching game in the locker room against the Dodgers? We have that.
Look at the look on Al's face.
51 Jackie Robinson jersey. A photo match Ted Williams bat from his final season that is just a provenance autograph, the whole thing. I mean, it's beautiful. Lou Gehrig jersey. Photo match, a DiMaggio jersey. I mean, it's like the only documented shoeless Joe Jackson bat from his career, not not tied to his barnstorming days. I mean, it's going to be like walking through a museum. And so as a collector, I'm just excited to be there and just kind of engage with people. But please make the trip to Cleveland, if you can, because you're going to see some pretty remarkable pieces.
Joe, can you do us a favor, though? And Prov and I were talking about this last week. Can you ask Provenzal to please leave the freaking blue suit with the vest home?
Nah, he's got to wear it.
I'm begging you to ask him to leave it home.
I don't know. I think that was game used by either Bob Barker or Richard Johnson. I'm not sure.
Joe, I was hoping that you were going to put on the orange tux so you guys could be like Dumb and Dumber. Now, wouldn't that would be
Al, what about love of the game? Obviously, you're not the size of Heritage, but every year you seem to have some really, really cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Can you give us a tease or two?
Donuts. We're going to have donuts.
Listen, that brings everybody.
Actually, let me tell you something.
Come for the donuts.
If you have donuts, you will draw more people than Heritage, I guarantee you.
Can I ask a question?
I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Joe just rattle off all of this. What the hell can I possibly...
But tell us, you always have great stuff.
All kidding aside, listen,
always have unique items.
Everybody knows that it's obviously a different clientele in some respects. But Al, you always have some very cool stuff.
One of the things that's been a lot of fun is that we've sort of developed this niche of having an auction that's filled with stuff that you don't see every day, and some of that, some of that it winds up being very valuable, and some of that just winds up being really interesting.
Yep.
And what's crazy about it is that kind of stuff doesn't grow on trees. So we're out there digging right now, and we're going to have some really cool stuff. We've got some stuff lined up already. We've got a great 19th century assortment, which seems to be a place where we're doing a lot, like 19th century baseball. So there should be some of that. There should be some cool Negro Leagues related material that we tend to have a lot of that kind of stuff as well. But we're still working on it. We
got about 4 minutes.
Yeah, I just want to ask, and three of you guys can answer. You guys are experts, all three of you in the field. We're dating back to what we talked about in our first time with the Negro League. Were there Negro League cards?
Well, I was going to ask that question. There's Satchel Paige cards, but
from the Negro Leagues or when he went to the majors.
So what you find is that there weren't actually American cards made of Negro League players. But a lot of these players, in order to make a living in the winters, they went to Puerto Rico, they went to Cuba, they went to Venezuela. There were cards made there. So they're much more rare, much more interesting, and they're really starting to come into their own in the hobby.
Are we going to see an influx of memorabilia from the Negro Leagues come into the hobby, Joe? And I'm talking about from maybe now families like, hey, wait a minute, my great uncle was a shortstop for the Monarchs. Are we going to see an influx of that, of memorabilia?
I think the catch-22 of this all, as excited as we are about what just happened with Major League Baseball, and I think Al would support this. This stuff is so rare. Whether it's type 1 photos or the Toleteros cards that Al's talking about, there's just not a lot to go around. You might see a handful of contracts, documents that are signed by some of these great players. There's just not a whole lot out there. But when it does pop up of some of the big names like Gibson, like Charleston, I mean, it can bring huge dollars. So it'll be interesting to see when some of those premier items come back into the marketplace post this Major League Baseball decision. We'll see kind of how the market reacts to it, but I expect big numbers on some of that material.
All right, go ahead.
You have to kind of remember that with the Cuban material, there was a revolution and an embargo. And so there's not much, there's all kinds of paper drives and things like that. And also a climate that is not conducive to lasting paper. So that stuff that's made it into this country is rare. And there's not like an inexhaustible supply of it. It is super, super rare. And So, we've had a couple of Oscar Charleston. We set the record and then broke the record for the most valuable Oscar Charleston cards in any grade. And cool. This stuff, when it becomes available, it sells for a lot.
All right, we are going to see you guys at the National. Joe, Friday night, I made reservations at Delmonico's under your name. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Because that's the kind of guy I am, as you know. But looking forward to seeing both of you guys at the National. To our viewers and listeners, this is going to be a really cool National this year. I have a good feeling about that. Petrocelli is psyched. He's never psyched to travel. Petrocelli is actually excited about the National this year.
Awesome. He's got a big fan base in Cleveland.
Yeah, really. All right, to our viewers and listeners, thanks so much for joining us. Joe, you mean a lot to us. Al, you mean a lot to us.
Yeah.
We love you guys, and happy collecting.
Be good, fellas.
Okay.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.